Welcome back to the show, guys. If you are tuning in for the first time, my name is Marlena Banks, and I am your host of the Big Idea Food Podcast, where we teach you practical tools from a Christian perspective that help you build and grow the impactful business God has called you to build. If you've been on my email list for a little while, you know that I have dubbed 2020 as the year we get our mindsets together, okay? But if you're new to the Big Idea Food family, first of all, welcome. I'm so excited to have you and to bring you along on this journey of elevating our mindsets together all year long. So throughout this season of the show, I will be sharing deeper insight into how to activate our mindsets to help us actually achieve all that God has for us to achieve in business and in life this year. So definitely catch up by checking out our YouTube channel that has all of our previous episodes on this series. There's some bomb interviews in those episodes, y'all. So definitely check that out and make sure you subscribe while you're there. You can also subscribe to my email list where I'll send you a link to read the first newsletter of 2020 that really breaks down why I decided to focus on mindset this year and just give you a little bit more context on why this is what we're talking about. You'll also get a fresh, hot off the presses, brand new devotional every single Tuesday that will fuel your hustle and inspire you to continue going after your dreams. So definitely, if you're not on my email list, sign up. But in a nutshell, this season, I will be walking you through my own journey of leveling up my mindset and how doing so is helping me achieve my business and personal goals. So I'll be sharing specific tactics, methods, etc. that I'm using, what's working, what isn't. I'll also be interviewing some amazing guests who have some awesome perspectives on developing a strong mindset in all of the areas and in all of the things. So if you can't tell, the Big Idea Food Podcast has all your mindset needs covered this year. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe now so you can stay in touch with all this rich, dope nutrition that is coming down the pipeline just for you. Now let's get into the topic of today's episode, which is mindset for creativity with my dear friend, Shivawn Mitchell, award-winning filmmaker and author of Heal Your Art. So here is her official bio. For those of you who don't know her, y'all need to get to know her because she is bomb. So Shivawn Mitchell, the published author of Rewrite Your Story and Heal Your Art, is constantly cultivating a legacy grounded in bringing creative believers together and equipping them for success in the film industry. The Virginia native and Wilkes University graduate discovered during her schooling years that Christian storytellers were often underrepresented. Shivawn realized part of her purpose was to shift this norm and create space and a community for these voices. And so in 2016, she founded the nonprofit, The Creative Outsiders. And through this organization, her podcast of the same name, and her written works, Shivawn has been able to facilitate workshops, conferences, and talent development sessions to aid many businesses in building their visual brand and identity. She focuses on developing the voices of storytellers, leveraging their influence as Christian filmmakers, and the importance of mental health wellness as creatives. And when Shivawn isn't motivating creatives to live their dreams, she's lending her talents to award-winning production teams and projects. Woo! Welcome to the show, Shivawn.
I'm excited.
Yes, I am so excited to have you.
I'm ready for all your words.
Yes, girl, I'm ready for yours, okay? I'm ready for you to heal our art. I got my book in my hand. For those of you who, y'all don't know, like Shivawn and I, like, how did we like our IG friends turned, she became one of my clients too. We have just become fast friends, just in the process. So I don't even remember how we even like.
In the DMs.
It was just in the
people, it goes down in the DM.
It really goes down in the DMs. Like you be having whole friends in the DMs and you don't know. Like, do not sleep on the DMs.
You do.
But Shivawn, I am just so happy to have you on the show today because I truly believe in the message behind your book and everything that you're doing for Christian filmmakers. Film is a passion of mine, as you and I both know, and it's just something that when I see what you're doing, I'm just so inspired and excited that God has led you in this area. And, you know, I want to start off the show by saying and prefacing that I know that you wrote your book for storytellers, technically, and that you are a coach to filmmakers. But I truly feel like the principles that you teach are applicable to all of us as Christians who are attempting to show the world, you know, the God that we believe in through whatever it is that we put our hands to. So I really believe that this concept that you're talking about in your book and that we're going to get into is extremely powerful and necessary. So I just want you, if you are listening and you aren't a filmmaker or you don't identify as creative, I still want you to like look at this as a message for you. And when we talk about art or, you know, the work we're creating, I want you to just take that to mean whatever God inspired vision that you are working on, because like I said, I truly believe this is applicable. So without further ado, I want to jump right into this. I read your bio, and I usually kind of give my guests a chance to sort of, you know, explain who they are, talk about their journey, but I actually want to just dive right in.
I'm with it.
You
I'm
ready?
with it.
Like,
Yeah, I'm with it.
get to the meat, you know? So I thought one of the best ways to dive in is I actually wanted to share one of the most powerful, gripping, edge snatching quotes from your book. And there are many of them, but I thought that this was the perfect one to kind of start off with. And so I'm just going to read this quote and then kind of ask you a question around that. And the quote says,
Okay.
I have a responsibility as an artist not to bleed on the people I am creating for and attempting to paint it as art. Whew. So I would just like you to sort of unpack what this quote means to you and share a little bit about your story and how you
Right.
came to this powerful realization.
Well, I think it's funny because that's probably the quote that everybody like remembers, or when they get to it, because it's at the beginning of the book, and when they get to it, they're like, "You ain't had to come for me like that." So, but it's like I had to come for myself first. So we in good company. But the quote is just basically this. When you look on social media, right? Because we negate, and I'm glad that you said like you don't have to be an artist for the book to resonate with you, but we all are storytellers, all of us. We communicate. That's a version of storytelling. So Facebook is just another way that we get to tell our story every day. Instagram every day, Twitter, whatever you use, TikTok, like whatever. Um, so I just looked and I was like, man, like people are dumping on social media every day, every single day. And it's usually not good. Like it's very rare that you just see like good, genuinely just good stuff. And I just started to think and I was like, wait a minute, we are like bleeding on people. Like we're wounded and we're like pouring it out on other people and we're like just masking it as like, oh, I'm just venting. No, like you're giving somebody a piece of your story that's not healed or you haven't worked through, and you're like just like saying, here, it's the equivalent of me walking through your front door and like being like, girl, let me tell you about my day. I ain't say hi to you. I ain't asked you how your day was. If you had the capacity for that. And I just realized, like, especially as creatives, we like have this responsibility because we're creating and like we have an ear from God to like hear what he wants to say in a creative way. And we're taking that responsibility and we're watering it down. And it's internal, like it's basically us then pouring it out on other people. And we're giving ourselves a pass as creatives because it's the whole cliche. I'm creative, so I get to be like a mess. I do my best work when I'm like a mess. And it's like, nah, like, yes, I can tell my story and it could have been a mess, but like, let me make sure I'm good first. So yeah.
Yes, girl, that is so true. Like, and I would say that before, you and I met and we started to discuss this, and I started to learn more about your book. Like, it wasn't something that I thought of, but as we've talked, you've convicted me. Even reading the book, this is the book, by the way. I can't remember if I shared it on the recording. Y'all need to cop this. But anyway, it's so real and so true that we are out here just oftentimes not healed. And then we're just sharing from that not healed and not whole space. And I've seen, I know for a fact that there are devotionals that I wrote and sent out that were more therapy than ministry. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know I can go back and see that. And I love the fact that you are calling us out, to say, wait a minute, you have a purpose and something that God is trying to work and speak through you. And it is your responsibility to really to honor that by making sure that you're not tainting it with your own, mess in a sense, your own mess. And so I wanted to kind of talk about, because I know that you have a mental health background, and this is a space that is kind of the foundation of everything that you do with film and everything. So I wanted to kind of talk about the connection between trauma and the emotional wounds that result from it, and why it's so important to heal our art.
So look at me. I'm so hyped to talk about it. So, okay, from a mental health aspect, right? So my background, my undergrad is in counseling. So and then looking at it as a believer, it's an open door. So for example, I was married and I got a divorce, right? So that's a form of rejection. So because of the rejection, the door is now open. So the door is open now to me, like, to compare, for me to be jealous, for me to be envious, because like those are like just feelings. If you don't like shut them down, they're just going to keep continuing to like fester and roll over into something else. So that's trauma. Like, we don't recognize what we go through day to day because, once again, social media has made trauma so normal. Like, we see stuff on social media that we should not be seeing. We shouldn't see like people consistently like being harmed or injured, or crime scenes, or people attacking one another. But it's become such the norm that we like negate the alarm clock inside of us that tells us like, stop looking, this isn't good for us. I'm feeding like negativity into my spirit. So whatever is in your spirit is going to come out. Like, it just is. It's going to come out in what you say. It's going to come out in what you create. It's going to come out in how you handle your business. So same thing. Example for me. When I didn't like rectify rejection, when I didn't rectify like being wounded and like heartbroken, it also conveyed, and we don't realize, me settling in my business. Because it's like, okay, I feel wounded and I felt rejection. I don't want it anymore. So now I'm afraid to say to somebody, this is how much I'm going to charge you to do this short film. Because I'm operating from rejection, and rejection attracts rejection. It just does.
Oh my gosh. And and I'm so glad that you draw the connection between, we go this emotional mental trauma that we go through and how it shows up not only in what we're saying and speaking every day, but in our business, in our very livelihood. Like, so often we think that we can't, girl. I mean, there were just so many places in your book that I was just like, yes, like you just talk about, like, I just kept living with it, telling myself I would get to it later. And I think that's what we do so often. We just power through, we press on, we don't acknowledge, we don't sit and heal. And there is no way that we can continue to find success in any area of our life, whether it's relationships, our creativity, our business, our job. You know, there's just no way that we can really find success if we continue to let this, like you said, fester.
Yeah.
So thank you for drawing that comparison. And I definitely want to continue to kind of dive into this a little bit more. And you actually gave a really good, your book walks you through like what is toxic art, and I really wanted to talk about this because again, I feel like this is really relevant to any of us who are creating through Christ.
Right.
So if you don't mind, like, give us a definition of what toxic art means, or even if you want to like give us some indicators that our art is toxic. I thought this was so powerful. And tell us why, or help us to kind of understand, you know, why this matters.
So for me, I'm gonna give you an example. So I think in the book I give you maybe like 12 things, like if you've experienced this, sis, or bruh, because we might have some bras, watching later. But it's like if you are doing this, then you have some unresolved wounds going on. So the number one thing that people do and try to diminish is comparison. Because, and you have to help me because you real good with scriptures, because I'll make up where's that.
I got you.
But it says, but it's a comparison is a thief of joy. And like, we don't like, then if we go back and it says that the joy of the Lord is our strength, right? So if I don't have joy, I don't got no strength. So if I'm on, and let's go back to social media, because a lot of people are like, oh, social media is my place for inspiration. Cool, I'm with it. But then do you find yourself scrolling and looking like, wait, I did something similar to what they did and they got like 2,000 likes and I got 100 likes. So now you're looking at yourself like, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with what I'm creating? And we're negating that, like, God created us to be unique individuals. He created us to walk our own path. He created us to, like, we hear him specifically for our lives. So it's like you're telling God, like, what he's doing for you is not good enough. So, like, that one little thing has sent us down this whole spiral of thoughts of, like, okay, now I'm not good enough. So now I'm going to copy you. Oh, wait, so you did it this way, so let me copy you. Instead of staying true to the voice that God gave you. Like, that's the other thing that I can resonate with that, because I've done all, like, the book is me. So I can even say me, one thing that I do, like, right now to always remind myself is my DNA. So our fingerprint is unique. Your fingerprint's not like Shivawn and mine's not like yours. So I always remind myself, when I even remotely catch myself, like, I literally look at my hands and I'm like, girl, don't nobody have your fingerprint. So, like, cut it out. Like, nobody can do what you can do. And it's not from an arrogant place. It's just honoring, like, who God said we are. We're his kids. We're unique. So it's like, that's toxic because it's going to produce fruit, right? But it's going to produce bad fruit, because now I'm going to try to emulate who you are versus who God created me to be. Nah. Then we mad because our tree is bare because we trying to be somebody else.
Girl, and y'all, do y'all hear this? Like, this is just one of the toxic behaviors. Like, she has a whole list. I wish I need to find that. Like, it's a whole list of 12. Like, that's just one, okay? And I'm already gathering.
But no, seriously, I call it when I started doing more research, I call that fruit rotten fruit, because it's going to produce more fruit, but it's going to be rotten, and then we're dissatisfied because it's not producing the way we want it to. Of course it's not. Like, come on now, cut it out. Sorry, y'all, I do a whole lot of pointing. That just means that I'm, like, in it.
Yes, point at us, okay? We need it. No, that is so good. And just like, when you are still producing, there is this expectation that naturally I did this, right? I put this out there, like, people should be loving it. People should be getting impacted by it. And when that fruit isn't the producing that way, it's like, wait a minute. And like you're telling us, it's all going back to, okay, what is going on inside of you, and we need to heal this thing before we start trying to put fruit out there. Oh, so good. So, I know no one listening to this can say that they are just completely exempt from, having some form of issue, right? That needs to be dealt with so that we can really create, including myself. So if you could just, is there a process that you can outline for us, or some like tangible action steps that we can take in order to heal, so that we're not, like you say, bleeding on our art and bleeding on our audiences? And let me just say, step one, y'all, is to buy this book. Okay. But what's step two?
So step two, like nobody's gonna love it. I even say it in the book at the beginning. It's taking a pause, right? We don't want to stop. We want to keep doing, going, creating, but like if we're, going from a perspective of like we're believers and we know that whatever God has asked us to do, it's important to Him. But like, what is the most important thing? It's time with Him. So, like, if I'm going to get healed, I need to go to the healer, and that's my Father. So that means that I need to get off social media. I need to make time in the morning where I'm like really submitted to like talking to Him. And I'm not saying that I'm always great at this, like, because some weeks I be on a wing and a prayer, like, and I know it though. I can feel it. I can feel it by how I respond to people, that I get into this place of striving instead of like being led. There's a difference. Like there's a whole difference. Um, so the first thing is really a pause. And the pause is like for reflection. Like we don't want to deal with things. Like it's so much easier to sweep things under the rug. Because even for me, like when I was going through my divorce, it was so like easy for me to paint this picture on social media. Like I just stopped posting about my ex-husband so much. And when people would ask me things, I'd be like, oh, he's all right. And then I would be in the car crying. Like, and I'm not saying that you need to be on social media like spilling your guts, but it's just like I had to take the pause to be honest with myself, to be like, you're not good. Like, you got to tell yourself the truth before you can like solicit help from the outside. You got to tell yourself the truth and God, because He already know. He just wants you to like surrender the process to Him. So you got to pause. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Yes, girl. Tell us though. You're right. Like
Yeah.
that, and I love how you bring out the fact that of the need for honesty. I think you even
Mm-hmm.
mentioned in your book, like, what we don't reveal, we can't heal. You know what I'm saying? And
You
here
can't.
you are, sweeping stuff under the rug, not being real with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, it's just preventing you from making that progress, right? So I love that. So step one is to pause.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, walk us through. Hold our hand through the rest of this.
Pause. And then it's like you have to. I was literally having this conversation with a friend. So yes, I'm a firm believer. Like you got to go to God. You got to like talk to Him for Him to show you too the truth. Because I guess I can be honest, but I could be missing part of the truth. Because it was easy for me to like point my finger and be like, oh, this happened to me. But I also had to be honest about the role I played, even like related to your business. You have to be honest about like where you are in your business, where you are in creating, because sometimes we like to make up stories that are like really not the truth. It's like the partial, like, oh, I'm not getting this, but are you like disciplined? Are you doing it the way God asked you to do? So like I had to go to God and be like, show me myself. But then after that, I had to come up with like realistic coping techniques, because this is what we do. For me, when I'm upset, like I either like eat all the donuts I can. I will not tell y'all my other bad habit because y'all gonna judge me. Um, it's ice. I eat ice. Like I don't know why. It just does something for me. Um, or I would like watch TV. I would not do anything. I would just be like sitting in my mess. So you got to figure out what works for you to cope. Like it could be journaling. It could be I need to go to therapy. Like yes, I'm a counselor, but I also go to therapy. It could be that I need to reevaluate the people who are in my life. And not from this like place of like no new friends, but like are we adding value to one another's lives? And like are we also calling each other to carpet? So like those are just some basic things that you can like start to do. Like how look at how you cope. Is your coping like being consumed in your work and like team no sleep? That's not healthy.
Period. Period.
Period. Period.
Thank you. And thank you for thank you for bringing up the word discipline.
Girl, it's a cuss word.
That it is, but I just the more I am on my own personal journey of elevating my mindset, the more I recognize the connection. Discipline is the thing we all hate and the thing we all avoid and put off, but it's the thing that will literally just set us free. Like if we would just
Girl.
be disciplined, it will make us feel better. Like there's just so much to it, and
It will.
it's necessary. It's just necessary. So we've paused, we've talked to God, we've come up with our own coping mechanisms. Is there anything, and I love that you bring up journaling. That is one of my favorites, and also therapy. It always goes back to, to therapy. So are there any other coping mechanisms? And then are there any other steps after this to just help us, really get to a place of healing?
So I will also say that okay, once we confront the truth and we recognize like the role we play, we do have to have forgiveness for ourselves, because then you get into this place of replaying like, oh, what I did and this happened to me, and then you're like right back in a cycle of like just not good thinking. So I've even written myself a letter. Like I know it sounds like super cliche, but I've had to write myself a letter and say like, you're going to lay this down, and like you're human and you're not always going to make the best decisions. You're going to learn from this, and you're not going to hold yourself hostage to the mistakes you've made. So forgiveness is a really big thing, and like grace, we have to show ourselves grace. Like we do it for other people, but we don't do it for ourselves. And then it's like, now I know where I need to work on, so I now need to like plant something else there. And you're the queen of this. It's our mind, our thoughts. So it's okay, I made this bad decision, or I settled. I didn't charge my worth for my art. Okay, that happened. That was, one moment. It doesn't dictate the rest of my life. So that was like my truth right then. But I'm gonna plant another truth. So now when I'm put in this opportunity, I can now recognize: do I need to affirm myself? Do I have it on my wall? I'm like, I'm supported. I'm talented. I'm God's chosen. Like I feed myself the good, because it means nothing to like uproot the lies and forgive yourself and do the work of like coping techniques if you're now going to leave that hole like empty. You need to put something in there. So you need to put like reaffirm what God says. If you don't have no affirmation for yourself, go to the Bible. Like you don't need someone to give you an affirmation. Don't get me wrong, it's cool when people have some for you, but like why don't you go to like your father and say, hey, what do you say? Like, I always say, I'm like, oh God, you told me that like everything I do, everything I touch prospers. You told me I'm the head and not the tail. Even if it's just basic, you gotta start filling your head with what the word says, or you're gonna be right back in that space. So like for me this week, I've been working on like my mind, and it is my scripture for this week is lean not to your own understanding. So the moment that I want to go back to Shivawn's old way of thinking, I'm like, nah, God, you told me lean not to my own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge you, and you'll direct my path. So you have to have something that counters whatever you're trying to pull yourself out of. You got to counter. You got to, you're trying to bob and weave. You ain't trying to get hit. Like, by negative thoughts all the time. You got to have
Yes.
something to throw back.
That is so good. And the fact that, and I think you brought this up in the book too, like we have been hearing and bombarded with these negative thoughts our entire life for years, right?
Right.
So like you can't go through this process of healing in 2 days and then not, like you said, replace the bombardment by bombarding yourself with positive,
Right.
and expect to, continue. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's gonna fall back. So thank you for bringing that up. And I love that you brought up using the word to affirm ourselves. I am also, as you know, I am a believer in not only just affirmations but scripture-based affirmations.
Right.
And I call them prescription-based affirmations.
Girl.
Because and you're so right. Like other people can give you affirmations, and there's a lot of good mantras out there. Like
Right.
there's a lot of good ones.
Absolutely.
I will mix in a mantra here and there, but honey, for the most part, okay, like I need God to just, Holy Spirit to just be like, okay, sis, like this is something that you're struggling with. Here's a scripture for it. And I put myself all up in the word. You know what I'm saying? Like Marlena does not lean to her own understanding. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
that is just so, so powerful. And I've seen so much result in my life from doing that. So I just appreciate you bringing that up. And girl, I just can't believe how fast time goes. So
No, I was like, oh, it's whole 7:35.
golly, I just want to keep going. But before we get into the lightning round, I did want to ask you one last question.
Okay.
And I really wanted to ask this for anyone who right now, this word is speaking to them. They are struggling with, like, I'm dealing with trauma, but reality is here. I have to put something out tomorrow, or I have to put something out next week. You know what I'm saying? So like, what do you tell the person, and what advice would you give the person who, they feel like they don't have time to pause and deal with this? And maybe in reality, they still have a deadline. So how would you encourage them, or what advice would you have to give them in the midst of that?
This is going to sound so basic. So don't negate my basic word. My rule of thumb is what I say to myself, because sometimes you can't, like you got deadlines. Like literally 2 weeks ago, I wanted to crawl into bed and like be like, check for me next month. But what I did is I did my best, right? I did the work. And then I said, now God, let me measure this against your standard, right? I said, so I'm like extra because I'm like visual, of course. So like whatever I did, and I was like, okay, God, here it is. Like I sat it on the table. I was like, God, here it is. So like, is this good? Like, is there stuff in here that is not like cool? Like that is going to hurt somebody? That's going to offend somebody? And he'll tell you. Like, we can ignore him, but he'll tell you. So that's like my first thing. But if you're in a bad place, it is very difficult to hear God. So I get that. So then my backup is I'm going to shoot it to my friend who it walks with the Lord, who I trust, because, I need to be able to trust you, and say, hey, am I tripping? Like, I'm quick to be like, am I tripping? Like, I have certain people, and I don't try to like dump on them. It's like rotation, because I want to make sure they're in a good space. So I'm like, am I tripping? Is this good? Like, is this about to like come across a different way than I think? And then once I've done those two checks and balances, if I'm in a not great place, and the person says, yeah, I trust, I'm like, okay, we can go forward. So I think those are just two good places to kind of navigate if you feel like, okay, my heart is jacked up right now, but I got to get this work done. So that's just two, like God, and then your homegirl. Yes. Or your bruh.
Or your bruh.
Or your bruh.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. That, I'm so glad that you gave us that, because there is that reality of I have to produce. So what do I do? And I love that. Like you can put the work out there, and then it's out, it's done, it's out of you, right?
Mhm.
But then you go back and now it's editing time, right? Like, what
Right.
is God saying? You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And then if God, if we ain't like hearing clearly, like, go
Right.
get a friend. So that is just so practical. Thank you so much for that, Shivawn.
You're
So
welcome.
yes, so we're going to transition over into our lightning round. I am still coming up with a name for it. I've been saying that for like 5 episodes, but it's fine. But I'm calling it kind of like my top 5. And these are like my top 5 or your top 5
Okay.
things that will help my listeners really slay their mindset related goals this year. So just answer the first thing that comes to your mind. You ready?
Gosh, I'm so extra. Okay, let's go.
Let's go. All right. So, number 1, what is your favorite daily practice for cultivating a successful mindset?
Being quiet.
Oh, yes.
Because no, seriously, I can get in my bag. You know how I am. I'll send you a text like, get your life. So in the morning, it's people joke, but I have my phone on do not disturb until 9 o'clock. Like, I don't need to talk to nobody. I need to regulate my own thoughts. I don't need nobody else's thoughts until about 9. And yeah, that's it.
That's good. That's good. What is your favorite affirmation, mantra, or scripture that always helps you get your mind right?
Uh, I'm a cheat. It's the one on my wall. It says, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint.
Yes.
And I have a ratchet one too, though.
Oh, share the ratchet. We welcome ratchet here as well, please.
I believe it. I believe it. Go ahead.
You gonna leave it? Okay. You can text it to me though. Text it to me.
I'll text it to you.
I want to know the rest. All right. What is the best book, podcast episode, or event, or just what is the best resource that you've consumed in the past year for mindset development?
Oh man, that's so loaded. Okay, I'm gonna go with. I went to a conference. It's called Millions Conference, and it is hosted by Tiffany Montgomery. Listen, bomb. I've gone 2 years in a row. Yeah, y'all like go. It's for no, seriously, it's so good. It's for believers who are in like the business arena. When I say hands down, like she has the best speakers there. Like Marshawn was there, like bomb, worth all my coins.
All of the coins. I keep hearing about this Millions Conference. Everybody
Girl,
tells me about Tiffany Montgomery, and she is definitely someone I want to really get to know more about this year for sure. So
you have
thank
to,
you
you
for
have to
that.
follow her.
Yes, I already follow her. I just need to like actually like follow her for
Yeah,
real.
join the book club. She has a book club. The book club is the truth. However, if you have an issue with buying books like I do, it's a setup because we do a different book every month.
You got to go to the library. That is a tip that I've learned. Go to the
I
library.
like I like having my own
Yeah.
because I want to like bend the edges. Like I do the most.
This is true. I completely get that. Completely get that. All right. So number 4, what entrepreneur would you want to trade mindsets with for a day?
No shade, nobody.
Ooh. She said my mindset is good all by itself. Thank you very much.
No, because you know how people, you see people and you're like, oh, like they're bomb. I don't know. So I don't want to be like, yeah, and then I get your mindset and it be jacked. So, yeah, nah. I'm going to just keep working on mine and roll with it.
Sis said I can't even imaginarily trade mindsets with nobody. I'm not letting nobody's emotional mess. I love that. Girl, you are cracking me up. All right, last thing.
Yo, I'm sorry. I'm a truth teller.
I can't even
I couldn't even make up. Like, I can't.
All right. So last thing, if you could recommend one thing for someone to do to significantly shift their mindset in the next 30 days, what would it be?
Ooh. Be disciplined. Like, that's it. It's just so easy for us to start with, if it's reading your Bible, or start with having affirmations and then stop. Just be disciplined. Like, whatever it is, you got to be disciplined. You're not going to win. I was about to do it because I'll be having lyrics for my lines. You ain't going to win if you ain't right within. Oh gosh, y'all listen. Y'all was getting all of how I really did.
Yes, I love it. This is a safe space to be who you are. Okay, let your craziness fly here at the Big Idea.
No, but seriously, you gotta have discipline. If you don't have discipline, you're just not gonna win.
Period. That's it.
Yeah.
Y'all. So good. Shivawn, this has been amazing. I knew that you would just have all kinds of gems to share with my audience. What resources do you have to offer to help with healing our art? What do you have coming down the pipeline that we need to be aware of? And then just let us know where we can find you, how we can book you, and keep in touch with you.
So you can get the book. Like, I feel like that's first step. Get the book. Then you can see, like, you can get my jokes, because I joke on myself in the book, but I also snatch edges. So get the book. Also, I have a retreat that's coming up for filmmakers, and you don't have to be like a filmmaker that's established. You can be emerging. You can be, I want to get started. I like kind of inspiring one. So that's in New York. The link for that is creativesconverge.com. Also, I am about to start, like, I almost like froze up when she called me a coach, because you know how I feel about that word. I feel like I want to just say I'm your pusher, because that's what I do. But I'm about to open up the doors for coaching, because I just know I'm supposed to produce more producers. So I'm excited about that, because I do it every day and I see tangible evidence of it, and it makes me happy. So those are some things that you can do. And you can also subscribe to my newsletter, because I get your life in there too. So, all about getting lives and pushing you to produce and not consume only. That was a good commercial.
That was great. There you have it, guys. I will make sure to link to all of those resources in the show notes on YouTube and everywhere else. So you will have all of that. Shivawn, thank you so much for sharing. This was just so, so good. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
You're the best. All right, there you have it, y'all. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
See y'all.